What's poppin' for 'em? What's up, y'all? For those of you who don't know me, I'm Raven. For those of you who do, what's poppin'? For those of you who do, hey, what's up? How you doing? One thing, SAI, Sigma Alpha Iota, we're doing recruitment this week, fall recruitment. We're a music fraternity, but we only accept women. It's kind of weird, but it's kind of cool, the whole fraternity thing. Yeah, whatever. So if you want more information about that, come see me afterwards, as well as Janae Aiko dropped her album last Friday, Trip. They got stickers in the back. Make some noise if you like Janae Aiko. All right, make some noise if you like Vic Mensa as well. Make some noise if you want to see him at Loyola. All right, that's all I need. Thank you. Have a good night, y'all.
Blessings from the Most High. Yo, when I say peace, y'all say love. Peace. Love. Peace. Love. Cool. Yo, so I dropped a single last Thursday called Superman. Very excited about it. My homie Samwise Ganja also released a live video called Intuition. I know some of y'all individually working on fire. I've heard demos, you know. I just want to encourage you to keep on doing what it is that you're doing. Keep on building what it is. This energy that we got out here in New Orleans, we have the capability to make some real fire, manifest it into some serious music. So don't compete against one another. You know what I'm saying? There's a whole world of artists out there, a whole world of different forms where people are people to compete against. So don't compete against each other. You know what I'm saying? Work together, build yourselves up. You know what I'm saying? Peace. Irie.
Thank you, Irie. Hello. Hello? Hello? Can you guys hear me? You guys hear me? Hello? Yeah. Check. Hi, my name's Sebastian Duzian.
I'm Nick.
I'm Dominic. And we're in a band called Color Block. You might have heard of us, you might have not. Well, we're kind of new to the scene, and we played a show last Tuesday, and we're playing another one this Friday at the Willow with a bunch of other cool bands. There's going to be cool music, and you know the other bands are also really, really good, and you know you should come on down and come on down to the Willow.
9:30.
And to follow up on that, this is Daniel Tadeo, and I'm MC, and I don't know where our bass player is, but he goes by Reese the Beast, and he's around here somewhere, and we're playing our very first show at the Willow on Friday night, and the doors open at 9, and if you listen to everything except country, then this is for you, so. Other acts are Megan Connors, Caitlin Cortez, I don't know where she is, Sleaze. Yeah, they suck. They cover Blink-182, so if you're into that kind of thing, like...
Come out and support. We love you all. And if you don't want to support, come throw a tomato or two.
Doors are at 9.
All right, how y'all doing? My name is Jenna Hunt. For those of you that don't know me, this Saturday at the Howlin' Wolf in the Den, my band will be performing at 10 o'clock. Doors open at 9, and y'all can get tickets at the door for $8. So that's this Saturday night. Hope to see y'all there.
Hey, what's up, y'all? What's up? So this announcement is for all the photographers, videographers, digital artists. I just want to let y'all know, every single person in this room needs your services. So like, be confident in your art, promote yourself. Raise your hand if you need someone to do some type of visual art thing for you, like literally right now. Okay, there we go. Start getting on it. Let's do it.
What's up, guys? I'm Austin. You may not have known that New Orleans is actually electing a new mayor right now. The early voting starts on September 30th, and that goes to October 7th. And the actual election day is on the 14th of October. After that, there'll be a general election where 2 candidates run against each other. If you didn't register to vote already in Louisiana, you can't vote in the primary, but I'm pretty sure you can vote in the general. So just stay aware. You know, like, we live in a world where voting is really important right now. So let's get out there and do it. Thanks, guys.
If you're cold as shit right now, say yeah. That's probably everybody. Shouts out to Jamie for this thing I'm wearing. I just want to remind you guys, I dropped a video on Friday, and you guys have a chance to win a shirt and a necklace in a little special package I can give to you. And you just Google Intuition Live at the Parlor, share it, tag me, however format you like, and there you go.
Thanks, Samwise. All right, who has missed a forum? Who here has missed a forum or will miss a forum sometime this semester? Everybody's hand's probably going to go up. Who doesn't want to transcribe a forum because it's the worst thing you're ever going to have to do? That's what I thought. All right, so on Friday at 7:30 in Rousseau Hall, New York Voices, their Grammy Award-winning group, is coming to Loyola. And if you go, you can X-nay one of your missed forms, and you don't have to transcribe. It's $5. Tickets will be sold at the door. You should go and join us. It's going to be a lot of fun. Thanks, guys.
Hello, hello, hello. Hello, hello, hello. Can you guys hear me? Hello? All right. What's up, guys? My name is Ricky. I'm the Warner Music rep for New Orleans. So if you guys sat down and found one of these on the side of your seat, everyone look right now, on the side in the black part of your seat, come up to the table after forum. You won a premium prize. We have stuff from Royal Blood and Eco Smith and all sorts of cool bands. So just come up and pick your prize. First come, first serve, right? Thank you. I think so.
Hey guys, so how's everyone doing today? My name is Laura, and the reason why I'm up here this week is because of the following. Who has heard of Crescent City Radio? And who has heard of Vital Sounds? All right, so right now those 2 companies are in very, very good need of board members. So if you want to be a board member of either Vital Sounds or Crescent City Radio and learn a little bit more about business management and logistics, please hit me up. I'll be right outside. Just look for the 2 handmade banners. And yeah, pretty much, let's talk about it. Thank you.
All right, on the count of 3, I want everyone to say, what's up, but like in that really intense, like Scary Movie 3 way. You ready? 1, 2, 3. What's up? What's up? Okay, that sucked. No, I gotta see like hands in the air and shit. I want a lot more than that. All right, let's try it again. I'm not gonna get off stage. Reform's not gonna start. It's gonna go late. Let's try it. All right, 1, 2, 3. Yeah. Okay. All right. There we go. All right. My name is Ian White. I'm a senior. I write songs, and I want to do it for a living. I'm starting a folk band, and you don't really have to have a lot of experience. If you like to sing, if you like to play music, just guitars, bass. You know, we could have a drummer, whatever. I just want to, take songs, write them, and, perform live. So if anybody's looking to join a band, just hit me up. I'm around. Peace out.
Hey everybody, I'm Noah Adams. I teach the concert touring class on Tuesday nights. I just wanted to make myself available to you as a resource. If you are thinking of doing a tour or are currently routing a tour through the regional area, national or international, please come talk to me. I would love to help you. My email is very easy to remember. It's contactingnoah@gmail.com. Also, I'll be hanging out here after the break or after the show. Thank you.
What up, everyone? So tomorrow at 2:30 on W2UL, I'll be doing an interview and playing some new music and some of my EP, Born in Paradise. So if you want to tune in, W2UL tomorrow at 2:30, you'll hear me, and you'll also hear some new music. All right, cool. Thank you, guys.
Some of you may know me. I've been to one forum so far. I teach a couple classes here. But I have the pleasure to sit down with a good friend of mine tonight, Giovanni Vargas. This gentleman has... This gentleman has toured with the likes of some of the bigger names I'm sure all of you are familiar with. Gio and I go way back. We both worked in production for a while with Ray Hodge Entertainment and Voodoo Fest. Long time ago. Or it feels like a long time ago, whether or not it was. And he's been on the road with folks like Fleetwood Mac, Usher, Outkast. Who else? Who am I forgetting here, Gio?
Lil Wayne. Lil Wayne, Nicki Minaj, Solange.
There you go.
A couple of them.
So really excited to have him here tonight. He's not only a wealth of knowledge, but an extremely awesome, good dude. Born and raised here in New Orleans, keeping things in the music industry alive. He's a big part of a lot of what goes on here in this city, and is able to kind of go out and represent for the city of New Orleans when he's on the road. So it's pretty cool to have him here. So one more time, I kind of skipped the applause part for Gio, but this is Giovanni Vargas, everyone.
Thanks for having me, man.
So before we get started, quick little disclaimer. First interview I'm conducting here at Forum, so thank you. With such a good friend like this, I couldn't pass up the opportunity to take care of it myself. So, but that being said, bear with me. I'm no Billy O'Connell, but I will do my best. And I got a couple notes here just in case, But yeah, so hopefully this will be a good one. So let's get started. Gio, I think I'd like to start with just, I mentioned earlier that we worked in production together. What got you going into production? Where's your start? Give us a little background on you.
So oddly enough, somewhere seated right here, when I was 16, I was at a music business symposium where Dr. Steve Smith was up here on stage. So I was I don't think any of y'all are 16, but I was here doing the same thing y'all are. So I think this is probably a really good step to start at, if anything, if you haven't already started. It sounds like from the list of people that were doing announcements that everybody's already gotten their start, which is a really good thing. But yeah, essentially I wanted to go to live music, and I didn't have money, so I started doing street promotions for House of Blues in exchange for tickets. And essentially flyering and street promotions led to me getting other accounts, and that led to me doing nightlife events and being involved with promoters. We started doing smaller concerts where we would produce and promote the event. That led to bigger concerts at a venue that is now defunct, Twiropa. You remember that one. But prior to Katrina, there was a venue called Twiropa that taught me a lot of what I know. But essentially doing bigger concerts, promoting and producing bigger concerts, and then went into the festival world, working Voodoo and Essence and Jazz Fest, actually starting at Jazz Fest on the Gentilly stage as a stagehand. And just kind of learning that world, learning the promotions world, learning the production world. And on the festival scene, I started meeting a lot of the touring crew, management, artists, assistants, and things of that nature. And it's kind of just been a gradual climb. This is definitely not a overnight game.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's great. So. I wanted to also ask you, when you were coming up, what did you find most difficult to try and overcome in order to get where you are now? I'm sure a lot of people in this room would love to do what you do for a living. And is there any kind of, anything that you did in particular that helped things progress?
I think that I'm a music lover, man. I feel like if you want to do music, it's probably because you love music, and it's really something for people who are hungry, who are willing to grind, who are willing to not sleep, or at some points not eat. I mean, it's definitely something that you have to understand that you're sacrificing a lot in the music industry. As you do in any other industry, you have sacrifices, but in this one, I think that they are very visual things that you can tell. I think that one of the catalysts for me personally was just a very strong work ethic. I don't ever like to see my work frowned upon or looked down at. And so it was always like, let me try to push my hardest work ethic so that they see it. And if they see it, the people around them will possibly see it. And I think that just happened. I think that people around the people that I worked with saw the way in which I worked, and they wanted, I'm a spiritual dude. They not necessarily the most religious guy, but very spiritual. And I'm very much so about energy, and I think that if you bring a positive energy, if you bring an energy that is not just taking, but it's also giving, I think that people want to work with you. And so when I noticed that thing, it was really a catalyst for me to really work hard to earn people's respect. It wasn't just about expecting people to respect me; it was earning their respect, and then being able to, sit back and kind of strategize from there.
Very well said. I like that quite a bit. Well, with that said, coming, like I told everyone earlier, you're born and raised here in New Orleans. Did you find any difficulty trying to get yourself coming up through this city as opposed to, say, New York, LA, Nashville, something like that?
So who's local? Who's in New Orleans, Louisiana, at least? Okay, cool. Is there a lot of Northeast in here still? A little bit of that. Okay, cool. I think that everybody comes to New Orleans thinking that it's a great musical city, and I think that a lot of people forget, they romanticize the music and forget music business. And I think that happened with a lot of not only musicians, but I think that the other entities that are needed to make a industry function, or music industry function, may have been uneducated on how things are done, on how much they should be paid to do things, on, not just to do things to a certain capacity, but to exceed that capacity. So New Orleans, for me, has been a bit of an obstacle because it's no New York, no LA, no Miami, no Atlanta. And those are markets that are that have enough people in them to have all those resources that you need. I think the gentleman's name Zane, is that it? So I think Zane made a very good point in stating the folks who are in like videographer world, photographer world, are extremely, extremely important, and in my opinion, one of the more important people in the music industry at this point. And so this day and age, I don't think it really matters that you're either from New Orleans or working from New Orleans, because we're so mobile. Communication happens so quickly. We can take a flight anywhere at any moment. So I think that New Orleans is just, we're a hop, skip, and a jump from any major city. So it's not, some issues that we dealt with in the past. I think that now New Orleans is just got to catch up with the education that every other city has in terms of music industry, and how much they pay their musicians, and how they teach their musicians about pay, and how they teach them about splits, and how they teach them about contracts and publishing and things of that nature. Because if you are a musician and you don't know that, then you're not in the music business. You're just a musician. It's a hobby, in my opinion. And I think that for you to love something like you do music and want to pursue that as a career where it pays you and you continue to do it for the rest of your life, you have to understand that is a business. And I think that, understanding New Orleans as a culture and then looking at the music business as it should be, there's a gap. And I would say that if you know that there's a gap, I think it's G.I. Joe says knowing is half the battle. If you know, all you're looking at is really a solution. And so mine was really, let me get the respect of the people here in New Orleans, and then let me also try to, make others who are not from New Orleans look at me and think about me as a resource or maybe as an asset to them. So I don't necessarily think that my mind was stuck on New Orleans or letting New Orleans as a city affect the way my outcome was as a professional.
Absolutely. So I'll get on, if any of you have had my class, it's something a couple of things I preach a lot, but one of which I'll get on my soapbox a little bit right now and just say that, you know, when you were coming through all that, considering that New Orleans is majority, you know, the majority industry we have here is live events, you know, and that was kind of your foot in the door, was it not? So when you were trying to insert yourself in situations, did you find it helpful to have, and I'm sure you picked up over experience, but a wealth of knowledge, not just limited to, let's say, management or tour management or talent buying or whatever, but kind of keeping yourself spread, you know, and knowing a little bit of everything in order to help insert yourself in those situations and look better to those people elsewhere?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I started off in like street promotions, guerrilla promotions, and knew that I wanted to work in music, but I didn't know specifically where I wanted to go in music. I didn't know whether I was going to be an artist, a producer, a booking agent, the wealth of opportunities there are in the industry. I didn't know which one I was. I just knew I wanted to be in that industry. I wanted to work in music. And so I think that, you know, knowing where I wanted to be is a pocket. You know, I kind of thrust myself to approach the FPI and, you know, go kind of make a cold call and then say, can I get a meeting? And I say, look, I don't know anything. I literally don't know anything about stage, you know, being a stagehand, but I want to know our work. And Reggie Toussaint, who is currently still head of production for the festival, he gave me an opportunity, and I started off on Gentili's stage as a stagehand, just literally pushing stuff around. And, you know, so I thought that was important. I thought learning, you know, catering was important. I mean, honestly, I'll tell you this, during my Tulane years, I hate to say that, my bad. During my Tulane years, I actually worked for Krispy Kreme. And I started off working in the retail department. I worked after that in the processing department, in the production department, sanitation department, and pretty much literally every department up until the point where I knew every part of that store inside and out. And I would get the 2 a.m. phone calls because something broke. So I took that same thing and applied it towards the music industry. Is let me figure out how to do things on stage. Let me figure out, you know, how to book a show. Let me figure out how to put this hook this guitar up to this amp. Let me figure out how to talk to the first person in security that we see when we're approaching the festival, because that is an extremely important person and can define whether I get on or off of this site. You know, let me just look at all of the opportunities that I just said about in terms of what someone can do, and let me try to at least get a grasp of it, so that if it comes to where I need to do this myself, I can. A lot of it is also act like you know. Because you got to act like you know sometimes. You get thrust into positions that you may not be comfortable in or you may not be knowledgeable of, but you ultimately put yourself at a weakness if you don't act like you know, if you come in there just not even willing to engage. So I think that, you know, whether it be sitting in on a touring class, or you know, sitting in on a theory class, or literally anything, any opportunity you get. If you get the chance to be a stagehand at Jazz Fest, or if you get the opportunity to be an intern for a booking agent at, you know, Winter Circle, I think that's an insane opportunity to pass up because you don't know where this will take you later on in life. You don't know where this opportunity or the experience will then benefit you later in life. I know we talk about, how am I going to use physics or, geometry later on in life? Well, I'm telling you, if you want to do music and you have an opportunity to do music in a certain realm, that opportunity is going to benefit you later on in life.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that being able to know those things and be the reliable person who gets that next call, because it's how, most of us that are out there working in the industry, especially here in New Orleans where it's mostly live production oriented, are all, one call to the next. There's, there's not year-round work all the time, and you're not punching a clock. So, the first time you don't take an opportunity or the first time you don't show up for an opportunity is the last time you get that call. But being able to insert yourself in the situation, do a good job, you're that much more likely to get the work the next time.
Yeah, and I mean, and it means in any capacity, really. Like I said, I know within the last bunch of years, a lot of my peers have left their day jobs in New Orleans and are now pursuing careers in the industry, whether it be as tour managers or production coordinators or festival runners. But literally, you're a festival runner year long, and you're traveling across the country, doing a bunch of different festivals, but that's your job. So those opportunities, a runner that I've worked with for years is now looking at an opportunity as a tour manager. So it just shows you that, you could literally be driving Modest Yahoo, at a festival one day and then quite possibly become his tour manager the next. I'm not saying that is going to happen, but in an industry that has no stability, I think that there's always a nice place for flexibility there.
Absolutely. Well, I kind of want to transition into a little bit more of talking about like what it is you do on a regular basis right now. So, like I said earlier, I named off some of the artists that you've tour managed and been on the road with. What's your typical schedule look like? How often are you out on the road? And is that something that when you're getting a call from, I always find it cool and interesting that you've worked from everyone from, Barbra Streisand to Lil Wayne. So what's happening when you're getting calls that say, okay, hey, great run with Wayne. Why don't you come over and jump over with Barbara? So what's your typical, like, how are you planning out your year? How do you kind of?
Oddly enough, you don't really plan out your year. I think there's some planning, but it kind of depends on the artist that you work with. I've been working with Lil Wayne since 2009 on the tour management end. And, he hasn't had, I don't know, y'all probably know this better than I do. He hasn't had an album come out in, right. So, that affects everything. The bottom line, if it affects the bottom line, it affects how much crew you have. It affects all of that. So, in terms of the planning, I can't say that there's the biggest amount of heads up on planning. In terms of a Lil Wayne, I think that, for example, we just went on a European tour during the month of July, and we pretty much got the heads up on that about 2 months before our flight, and so we had a lot of logistical information to pick up on, to wrap our heads around, to see if we could catch flights at that point. There's also specifics for Lil Wayne that we have to take into account that affect how we move. And so, for us, the logistical starts with as much time as we can get from management and from booking agents. Once things are confirmed, and sometimes not even confirmed, we just kind of move. For for a Lil Wayne, a lot of it is, obviously budgeting, routing, is where we kind of start. The day-to-day on a Wayne tour has gone from like a very big crew of 70 some odd people in 2009 to now we literally were moving with 18 people, because again the demand isn't necessarily there as it was before. So our crew has obviously gotten a lot smaller on that one, so we have fewer people to take care of. And in most cases, the way that, our tours travel are either A party, B party, C party, A party obviously being the artist, B party being the band, C being the crew. And it's B and C party traveling together, A party always having their own routes that we still put together. The gathering of buses, the gathering of hotel information, the gathering of route or mileage and things like that is something that we deal with, in advance of the show. A lot of the settlement stuff obviously doesn't get handled until after the show, but in dealing with the settlement, you deal with more often than not, with the promoter. And so building a relationship with those promoters is often very important, because an artist like Lil Wayne is often going to the same venues, the same amphitheaters, the same arenas like Smoothie King, and you have to deal with the same promoter there. So keeping a good rapport with these individuals is kind of your best friend. The switch you were talking about from Wayne to Barbra Streisand, the crews for Barbra Streisand are at about 100. Honestly, it's not that different. Lil Wayne is very professional in the way that he works, gets on stage at the right time, gets off stage at the right time for the most part. Barbra Streisand is the same way, although in her lifetime, I think she's only done about 127 shows, actual live concerts. Wayne has done that probably in a year or so. But same thing, there's specifics with Streisand, and the way that she rolls, the types of hotels that she stays at, the people that drive her. I think that, knowing the job is in the details. The tour manager job is a lot of details of how many miles are in between a city, how many minutes are, from the FBO to their hotel, how many minutes from the venue to the FBO. It's all about knowing the specifics, whether it be for a big artist or a bigger artist. It's really all in the specifics. I think I said this the first time we talked, but a lot of people call tour management adult babysitting, and it really is. Like it somebody told me that a couple of years ago, but it really has become adult babysitting, and it's just literally telling people like, this is what you got to do today. I'm gonna send you a day sheet for today, and this is the only thing you got to follow, and nobody reads them, but so yeah, I mean, like I said, luckily I've had the opportunity to tour with really respectful artists and people that love their fans, love I think their opportunity, and so our work really is stuck to our work. We don't really have to deal with a lot of animated characters, even though Lil Wayne is really animated. We don't really have to deal with a lot of that. It's a lot more of the logistical stuff that we deal with, like I said, day in, day out, dealing with the budgeting, day in, day out, dealing with advancing venues, advancing hotels, advancing, some of the routing, depending on how your crew is built, advancing catering and hospitality, advancing hotel parking. I mean, it's really, really specific stuff, but luckily once you get into a routine of it, it just flows.
So you just used a word a few times in a row. Anybody who's had my class know what I'm about to say? Advancing. For those of you who don't know, do you mind explaining what advancing is? I find it something that it can be easily confused with an advance, which is a lot different.
Oh no.
Than advancing a show.
Yeah.
And soapbox one more time. In my opinion, it is the most important part of any live production, hands down.
Mm-hmm.
So can you shed a little light on when you say advancing what? And I want before you start, I want to ask you one other question. I'm also big on terminology, so you always know what's going on. FBO.
Fair base operator. I think it's fair base operator. It's like where private jets come in and out of.
Okay.
Fixed base operator. That's what it is.
Okay.
But the question.
The question being though, give us a little rundown of exactly what it is that's going into your advances and what you're doing when you're advancing a show. Or a tour in general.
So if you're advancing a show, so in my experience, it's been, you have your rider, you have a hospitality rider, and you have a technical rider. And so there's going to be somebody who advances the hospitality rider, somebody who advances the technical rider. In some cases, one person will do both. And most of the times that I've worked, I've handled a lot of the hospitality rider. Production manager handles the technical rider. So in my advancing, I would be dealing with, once we get into the venue with the talent, how many dressing rooms are there? We're asking about hospitality, about dressing rooms. We're asking about catering. We're asking about parking. Where are we going to park our buses if we have buses? You have to keep in mind that when you have buses, you have to have shore power. So you have to have a location that has, space for a bus with shore power. If this is a venue like Civic maybe, or the Fox in Atlanta, you have to have street parking, so that's permitted, so you have to advance parking. If you don't do that, you're more than likely going to get a ticket. So, there's advancing parking, advancing hospitality, advancing catering, dressing rooms. The way a dressing room is set up, from literally a 6-foot table with a black blanket on it, and the array of whatever chips or whatever. The other side of it is the technical rider, where in most cases the production manager will call the production manager for the venue, and we'll discuss what they're asking for from what the artist is bringing, and what the artist is going to need from the venue. They also advance a lighting rig. They advance all audio inputs. They advance, if they're gonna bring in-ear monitors, if they're bringing in a lighting truss, if they're bringing in a set, all that stuff needs to be handled. Because if it's not, you're gonna run into a very big problem when you show up at the venue. You may show up, and if you didn't advance correctly and you need 3 dressing rooms, they're gonna have 1 for you. If you needed a parking spot and you didn't advance it correctly, you have to park miles away, and if you need to get to your bus, that's a problem. If you didn't advance monitors, if you didn't advance a lighting truss, if you didn't advance production, it's gonna be a bad show. You can work around a hospitality rider, but advance is basically putting the other person in the know of what you have and what you need, and it's putting you in the know of what they have and what they need from you. So it's making everybody understood. This is our agreement, essentially. It basically makes your day a lot easier if you're the tour manager or if you're the production manager. It'll make your day a lot easier to know that the people on the other end already know what you're coming with, what you need, how long it's going to take for you to load in, how long it's going to take for you guys to have catering set up, or how long you need catering set up. So each individual, like I said, those specifics that I talked about, that's all handled in the advance, so that when you get to the venue, you're not arguing with the promoter or production manager.
Absolutely. And you touched on a little bit too of you rattled off a bunch of production stuff there, and I wanted to bring up the fact that despite the fact that you're not the one personally advancing that, you know all of that, and knowing all those things that need to happen, I think once again kind of comes back to that point of making you more equipped for what it is you do?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I tried to pick up on production as best as I could, and I'm no all-knowing. I'm definitely not all-knowing in the production world, I'll say that. I actually did a tour with a group called X Japan, which is a Japanese group comparable to like a U2 of Asia. And I did their first tour in the United States. And I took that job as a production coordinator for for the tour. And I sucked. Like, I suck at production coordinator, any side of production. That's not my league. It's just not my thing. I deal a lot better with people that don't like to deal with other people. You know, I can try to handle situations politically, or just, you know, I have a good bit of diplomacy with me, and so I just try to keep everybody calm and iron everything out so we look good.
Awesome. Yeah. We kind of started getting into a little bit of the scale of the tours that you're out there with. Tell us a little bit about like a typical large-scale tour. What's going into that, as far as, I know you mentioned the A, B, and C crews, artists, production, and what was your B crew? What was the B?
Band.
Yeah.
Band of dancers.
Yeah. So how many, on average for a large scale, one of the, let's just say the biggest scale tour you've been on, how many buses, how many semis? Can we give folks an idea of like what you're traveling with and what that scale is? Because I know until I started getting into some of it, I had no idea how much really truly went into it, and it was intimidating and surprising to find out exactly what that was.
So I was working with Solange earlier in this year, and we had a traveling party of I think 13 people, and that was including a crew, band, tour management, Solange herself. I work with her sister's tour manager. I work with Beyonce's tour manager very closely. and so the tour, did anybody go to Beyonce's show this past whatever tour that was? Nice, okay. That was an expensive tour, right? Yeah. So Beyonce's tour had 400 people on their crew. It was 4 steel teams that once one city was built, the other steel teams would go in advance to go to do the other cities. So while one city was being built, the other one had a show. They would then tear that city down. Those teams would fly to the next city, or leapfrog essentially. And so they would, run their tour. So it was, you see the small tier versus a large tier, and so you would, like I said, have on a Beyonce tour 400 people literally working, including 22 dancers, a 5-piece band, plenty of assistants. It was I think a tour director, a tour manager, pyro. You had tons of video. You had acrobats. You had just a lot of people on that tour. Luckily, I wasn't on that tour. I did. I think that our bigger ones were kind of. I did Barbra Streisand, and that one was a 60-piece orchestra.
Wow.
And so we were bigger than the crew at that point, and so our total amount was about 120 people, and that would be somewhere along the lines of about 12 buses, and our bill was, I think, 11 semis. So 11 18-wheelers and 12 buses full of people traveling, not including the A party because she always flew. But that's a lot of people, and it's a lot of people to move, and it's logistically a lot to handle. So, you see, you can either be handling 2 people on our, on a Solange tour, maybe 2 buses versus handling 12 buses. they literally had somebody do bus stock. Like somebody on the tour was solely in charge of bus stock because it takes almost an entire day to do shopping and buying for 12 to 14 buses. Mm-hmm. So it's just a lot of people moving.
Yeah, as you can see, that's why advancing would be such an integral part of all of that. There's so many moving parts. I mean, you're at that point, you're moving a tiny little city of people from place to place.
Yeah. And even like getting, if you have a band of yours of 5 people or you're on a tour that has, 17 people or 18 people, if you've just done an overnight flight with a bus of 10 hours, or I'm sorry, like 7 hours, you leave the venue at 2 a.m., you get to the next hotel or next city at 9 a.m., and you have a day off that day, and you get to the hotel and you didn't advance, there's going to be a lot of, pardon the language, a lot of pissed off people because you didn't advance correctly. And that's where you mess up. That's your problem. You got to sit on that. But that's just the name of the game. But again, it just comes to, the insight of how important that advance is, the specifics of, making sure people's rooms are right. On the Streisand tour, a lot of the advance that I did was actually her hotel room advance. So I would travel with her on some days, and I would travel the first flight in the morning, the day that she would travel, so that before she got to the hotel, I would be there. I would make the room look essentially what I think she wants the room to look like, and then she would come in and everything would be smooth. But again, none of that will happen if you don't advance it right. Just as a very something that's very fresh, I know an artist that had a show a couple days ago, within the last 48 hours, who built a set and had set pieces built by an architect engineer, and the advance went wrong in that they did not include the venue in the advance, and since they didn't include the venue in the advance, they didn't have enough stage hands to move the 2 set pieces. So coming off the semi, one of the set pieces fell and broke. The second set piece would not fit through the back door. So you can pretty much guess what that artist's mood was when she found out she's got no set pieces on the stage. So, it's really, really important in understanding your role, what you're doing on that tour. In this case, if anybody in here is trying to look at like a tour manager position or a production manager position, you got a lot on your back because everybody else is looking at you to make sure that they're okay, to make sure that when they get to a venue, they don't have a super hard day because my production manager looked out for me, to make sure that when the band gets to their next city at 9 a.m., they have a hotel room because the tour manager advanced with the hotel sales director to make sure that rooms were already ready when we got there, had no time to wait. We just got our keys and walked in. And that can be the difference between a very happy tour and a very unhappy tour.
And that can be the difference between work and no work.
Exactly, yeah.
The first time you mess that up could be the last time that you get the opportunity. In so much of what you were just saying too, I think it's important to keep in mind, a lot of people and everybody, I think it's something a lot of folks, especially looking to get into the music industry, find interesting or funny is, hospitality riders and things like that of, we only won such and such or whatever. But it didn't even occur to me until I'd been in that position, on the road, that those things may seem mundane or, over the top to someone who's not in that world. But when you're on the road, I mean, that many days a year, back to back to back, those little creature comforts and those things that help make your day go better really keeps everything running smooth and the morale up and better than it would if you walk into somewhere and nothing's been advanced properly. And
yeah, and a lot of people harp on hospitality riders and, let me get all the yellow Skittles out of whatever bag. I have never really come across an artist who's that detailed about their stuff, but I know that there are. And so, I always, after having worked in this industry for a bit, I've actually figured out that it's not the artist that you end up being like pissed off at because they ask for yellow or no yellow Skittles, but it's the assistant or the tour manager who ends up really pushing the contact who they advance with to do those things because they want to keep their job, like you said. You know, if that artist just so happens to be in a bad mood for whatever reason, they show up at the venue and the doggy piss pad isn't there, or you know, the walk to the dressing room is an extremely long walk, and you don't have a cart there. You know, there are little things that, like Mike said, you know, that can make or break you as a tour manager, that can make or break you as a guitar tech, that can make or break you as a booking agent. And if you don't understand those specifics, you probably shouldn't be doing what you're doing. If you do understand the specifics, then you understand the reasoning in those details. You understand that you've got a job to do, and it doesn't matter. You're not going to see this guy who you're advancing with for the next show, you know, in a year. But that one night with this guy doing a bad advance could really mess up your year.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the perspective that helps is knowing that, you know, if you're at home and your doggy piss pad's always there, right? You know, when it's not there, and, you know, things like that, when your home is the road, it makes a big difference. Yeah. You know, in and day out, just living comfortably and keeping that morale up, like I said.
Yeah.
So I think that gives us you know, some of the things you just said were even new to me. You know, some of the scale on how large things can be. It makes absolute sense that someone like Beyonce would have essentially two crews. You know, one build in one day, and then they do that leapfrog thing. So I think that keeping that perspective of everything from the 13-person crew to the 400-person crew should all be considered and handled the same way, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, no, definitely. One of my more fun tour, like the tour that I remember is my favorite tour so far, has been with Natalie Merchant from 10,000 Maniacs, because it was 18 people on tour. We were all living on 2 tour buses, and we traveled for about 5 months together, and it was just a unit. Excuse me. But you know, to your point, yeah, if you don't advance for an 18-person tour, or you don't advance for a 1,400-person tour, you're stuck. You know, your show that artist's show can be messed up because of you, because you decided to relax on the details. And, you know, not for nothing, you know, I'm sure that I've gotten lazy at plenty of times. I'm sure that we've all gotten lazy at plenty of times. But, you know, that comes back to the point that I said from the beginning. If you love music, if this is what you love to do, you don't mind putting everything you have into it, creatively or just, you know, in your work ethic.
Absolutely. So with that, what do you find yourself enjoying the most about what you do? And then what do you find yourself liking the least?
Damn. You know, the most is at some point in pretty much every show that I do, I get goosebumps. You know, because, you know, again, it goes back to me feeling like this is what I've always wanted to do. So when I get to see, you know, the totality of not only my work but everyone else's work in the live show, and you get to see night in, night out, you know, luckily I've gotten to see, you know, the bigger artists where they have 7,000, 13,000, 20,000, 70,000 cheering them on. You know, that's a pretty strong feeling. So I'd say that in most cases, that's, you know, the highlight of my day is realistically the live show, and at some point, you know, just getting goosebumps from realizing where you're at. The pit of it is, I'm not really a computer guy, so I really don't like being on a computer, and that kind of lends to not always completely seeing eye to eye on some of the advance, but that has improved over the years. But yeah, I'm not the biggest on being on the computer. In most cases, when I do an advance, I'll call the individual and introduce myself and talk to them for a little bit, and then the advance will actually be an email that just confirms everything that I just told you, so that there's nothing left out. That everything is handled. Everything is handled. But I would also say that it's I don't get as much sleep as I probably should, and so that gets a little tough. You also have to be away from family for a good bit of time. I've been on tour sometimes for like 10 months out of the year. This year has probably been maybe like 4 to 5, probably about 5 months of this year I've been out. So it's obviously a sacrifice of being away from your family. I've been away from my mother's birthday. I've been away from my birthday for 4 years. My sister's, my dad's, my cousin's wedding. So there are sacrifices in this job. But I think that again, I kind of bring it back to if you're somebody who works offshore, you're gonna have to miss something. There are experiences that you're gonna miss, and you just have to value that opportunity that you have and say that this experience is worth the sacrifice. And then I think that like, how many of your parents are really supportive of what you do? So that's really good.
That's good. How many parents don't get it at all? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so my parents were, were very much so scared of sex, drugs, and rock and roll. They were worried about, especially, starting off with like Lil Wayne, the concern for obvious reasons. Luckily, my parents along the way started, I invited them to Voodoo Fest one year and had them not shadow me, but I had them around me for the first while. And, we had our shoulder mics, and so the shoulder mic was going off every 30 seconds. And so it's something for Gio, go for Gio, go for Gio, go for Gio. And so it really left no time to have a conversation with my parents. So they're like, all right, we're going to walk away for a little bit. And then, I called them, told them to come to a certain stage. And it was, I brought them on stage for Snoop. But it was actually at that point where my mom started to understand my position, my role, and the reality of it. Because I think a lot of people see somebody taking a music business endeavor as like, oh, it's a hobby. Him playing guitar is a hobby. Him being a stagehand is a hobby. Him managing some startup band is a hobby, or she managing some startup band is a hobby. I obviously think that we don't see it like that. We see it as a passion. And it took me putting my parents in maybe what could have been, what it could have appeared as an uncomfortable position, for them to understand, like, this is actually work. I'm not playing around. I'm actually putting in 17, 20-hour days to make this thing happen. Needless to say, when I started working for Barbra Streisand, my mom believed anything I had to say about music, what I was doing, because that's her favorite artist. And, but then it comes full circle when, I flew my mother out to Philadelphia last year for a Streisand tour, and, I got to see my mom in tears. So, it comes full circle in saying that there are all kinds of sacrifices that go into what you're doing, but there can also be the flip side of that, where someone who sees this as like a hobby, or sees this as a phase, can then understand the reality of it and see things for what they are. And I think that also kind of lends to everyone's creativity musically. Is like, for years we've been told you have to be boxed into this genre of hip hop, or have to be boxed into this genre of R&B or pop or something of that nature. I think that maybe this generation especially is seeing an industry that doesn't know what to do with these artists that are in between. it's scared, and I think that the musicians and the people, like Zane said earlier, like the videographers and whatnot, they're putting a face to these individuals and not letting it just be solely about the music. They're letting you know what this individual looks like, what this individual does on a daily basis, video, daily vlogs and things of that nature. So you're just getting more of an artist and getting more of them to be able to take that in.
Yeah, not to sidetrack too much from the tour management aspect, but I think you got a good perspective there just on the industry in general right now. What would you say, let's call it, well, since I've been here, I feel like a lot's changed. I graduated here in 2009. What's your take on what's going on right now? Is that...
You talking locally or just in general?
Both. I mean, just music industry. I mean, it's something that we all want to work in, or do work in, and it's, like we said, not always very well understood by people who aren't in it. And, I'm just curious what your take is on where things are at right now in comparison to where they used to be.
Dr. Goolsby, I came to sit in on a lot of Dr. Goolsby's classes because a friend of mine was in his music business classes here at Loyola. And, one of the things that he said that has stayed in the front of my mind for a very, very long time was give away the steak, sell the sizzle. And I always took that as like give away your music and sell everything that comes with it. Find a way to quantize, other aspects of you that you can really reel people in with the music and then pull them in with everything else, whether it be merch or touring. Obviously I saw one of the main components of being in this music industry, that it would be touring. So that's kind of why I've gone into it, is because, once I didn't want to work for a record label, it just seemed too corporate for me. And touring just kind of seemed like that thing that was really about the artist. It was about their live shows, about, the majority of the money going their way. And so it just kind of made me feel like that was the best place to go. I still think that, and I think that if you look at the amount of festivals that are, going on around, not only around the country, but around the world, I think that if you look at ticket sales for live shows, there was an article in The Advocate, I want to say, where they were talking about the New Orleans music industry or live music and live touring industry, that they reached the $40 million mark in New Orleans. And it was mainly Live Nation. It said that Beyonce's tour grossed $5 million. And the variety of other shows, including U2, this has been the biggest touring year for the city of New Orleans in a very long time. And so I think that, one, it's showing real good numbers for the city of New Orleans. I think that it's showing great opportunity. I think that if you look at the landscape of New Orleans and you look at music, from top to bottom, genre to genre, from one genre to the other, I think that you see that there's a lot of people in here, there could be a few bluegrass folks in here. The gentleman who was looking for a band in here sounds like, is a songwriter. I'm sure this gentleman, was talking about, peace and love. I think that there, is definitely an opportunity for just a lot of different musical landscapes to grow. And I think that the platforms, whether it be a Tidal or a Spotify or an iTunes or Google Play or whatever they are, while they may not be the most profitable thing for the artist at this moment, I think that there is benefits in other ways. I think that, things like, I listen to the Discover Weekly on Spotify a lot. I listen to it literally every week and probably a couple times a week because I want to be put onto new music. I got put onto like Crazy P. I got put onto Black Coffee. I got put onto Tom Misch. Just a lot of different stuff through something like Spotify's Discover Weekly. You know, Fatima Arabi right here is a very close confidant of mine. She also is partly, if not, you know, a big responsibility of why D1 is where D1 is right now. She's been managing him for quite some time now. I don't know how long now, but since the beginning. You know, and so I think that one, you know, having some strong-willed people by you and some people who really know their not only their value, but I think know their chops is really helpful to building a team around you that that can really create something. And if you have those components and those entities in place, I don't think that you have to be in New York or anywhere else to do it. You know, Nashville is booming right now, but I don't think you have to be in Nashville to be a studio musician or to be a successful music business professional. I just think you have to have the right components around you. It's not, there's no equation, there's no one way to make it in the industry. And I think that if you look at the array of artists, Jhené Aiko being one of them, you know, I think that she's made, you know, great waves in this industry just by being herself and, you know, allowing herself to be seen as a human and not just a musician. But case in point, I think that, you know, I think the music industry is at a really good place. I feel like there's a lot of new music that may have gone to the wayside in past years that I don't think is happening now, and I think there's a lot more opportunity because of portals like I said, like Spotify and things of that nature. I think there are more ways that you can pull people in, you know, especially if you think outside the box. I haven't given up on guerrilla marketing because I think it's a really good component of what it takes to be out there.
Yeah, I would agree. I think it, you know, you may say it's oversaturated right now, and the way artists make money has definitely changed from the old model. And it's clear that these days the live show is going to be the mainstay of the music industry, artist money making model, if you will. The days of you know, having to be in a city to know bands from a certain scene are gone. You know, I mean, it used to be if you weren't in DC when Bad Brains was playing and you lived on the other side of the country, you might not have known who HR was. Or if you weren't in New York City when the New York Dolls were playing, you may not have known those bands because those scenes were very insular. But now that all these platforms have really seemed to open the door and change things to the live show is the mainstay.
And I think that, you know, locally, you know, you look at artists like a Trombone Shorty, you look at artists like D1, like 3D Not T, you know, Andre Perkins, Currency, Chasing Cash. I mean, the list goes on right now. New Orleans is very hot in terms of musically. I think people are very receptive to a New Orleans sound, and I think that people are very open ears to people from New Orleans or from Louisiana at this point. It's just it's a hot city. And then I think that the opportunity going to our tricentennial was a very good opportunity because there's just even more eyes on the city. But I think that even without that, if you look at what, like I said, the names that I've mentioned, an Alfred Banks, a D1, a Currency, a 3D Not T, you know, a Trombone Shorty, a Stephen Colbert's dude,
John Batiste.
Yeah, Batiste. You know, I mean, the list goes on. There's several that I haven't mentioned that are very much so touring artists, and you know, I think that there's a very good opportunity for the city of New Orleans right now.
I absolutely agree. Yeah, definitely. Well, to kind of get us a little back on the tour management side of things. Out of time? Oh, wow. I'm sorry, guys. See, I've never done this before, so I'm not even, you know. Where's the stage clock?
Good job.